A little over a year ago, I made an ornament. I think it's time to make another one. Stick around to the end and see how it turns out. Let me know what you think. I've picked out some cherry wood, cut them into 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches, 7 inches long. Kind of match the grain the way I want it. And this time, I don't think I did this before, but I'm going to glue the ends together using some brown paper. Okay, that'll do it. Let that sit a little while. We'll flip them up and glue them together the other direction, and we'll be ready to start. I went ahead and glued up a second block because I had the material ripped out. This one's 8 inches long, and I decided I want to use it because I have a different shape in mind than what I made before. And I've marked the ends, 1, 2, 3, and 4. When I reverse this, all those numbers will go back into the middle, and you'll have the inside shape right where it should be. I'll use a safety center here and my live center there. I'm going to put this end in here, bring it up, bury those prongs into the end of this. I put a mark here. This is approximately where I want to cut, and at least this much. And I need enough material down here to maybe create a shape on it. I'll start with a spindle roughing gouge, and we'll get this cut out and trying to stay inside of those lines to start with. At about 1,000 RPMs, grab my face shield and we will start turning. Down that end a little bit. Okay, that is actually pretty big. Okay, let's use a spindle gouge. Maybe we should use a sharp spindle gouge. I gotta sharpen up. These are really dull now. Okay, all sharpened up. Let's see if this works better. Oh yeah. If you think it needs sharpened, you probably should have sharpened it 5 minutes before you thought that. And I am guilty of that. That just cuts so much better. Okay, let me just get an idea what we have here. I was shooting for half of that, so that would be what we're doing here. And I'm still not at the halfway point. Halfway point would be this much, which is 1.5 inches, and I'm looking for that to be 1.5 inches. And it doesn't have to be. Okay. I'm going to go with that. There is one thing I would recommend, which I didn't do, and I normally do, but these glue joints hold quite well. It does not hurt at all to put a piece of this strapping tape around here. And you notice I turned all my shape without it, and it's just real easy to do, and I didn't get it on there. I planned on it. So we'll put it on now just so you know that you should do it. Extra precaution. Okay, I've got some 120 paper. I have my mask on. And I will turn this in reverse at about maybe 450. And then just sand it. Now, I'm not going up to them square corners yet. Not at this RPM. Okay, and I'll turn it up to maybe 700. And I can hit those corners. And that did them quite well. So I'll sand this up to 400, and I'll come back and we'll put some finish on it and get ready to flip it around and glue it together permanently. Now's the time to get some finish on this surface, because this will become the inside. This is shellac based sanding sealer. I don't know that I'm going to finish it all with shellac, but this for the inside, this will be good. If I decide to spray this with lacquer, then this is a good sanding sealer with lacquer as well. Okay, I'll get at least another coat on there, maybe two. And I'll come back and take these apart and show you how they go together. Alright, time to take it apart, and just look for the best place to get a chisel in there. Okay, there's a part that way, and that one popped on. Okay, so remembering these numbers, one and two, three should go over here, and then four. So when you put them together that way, you get a window like this all the way around. So now I'm going to glue them together just like I did before we turned the first part. So I'll just do that, and I'll come back when it's ready to go back in the lathe. I did not use paper on these joints, and I glued all touching surfaces. Well, this sat all night in my clamps, and it looks good. So I want to work on this right now. I want to get it rounded and put a tenon on this end and put it in a chuck. So I just resharpen my roughing gouge, and we're turning 1100 RPMs, and we'll just round this end and get it in the chuck. Same RPMs, 1140. We'll go back to the roughing gouge. So now we'll work on this end. Use the spindle gouge. About 1300 RPMs. Okay, I actually, looking at this, I think I want this to be the top. That means I've got to cut this down smaller and maybe try to get a little bit of a cove in here, but I'm going to reshape this. Well, I've done a total design change here. Alright, I'm going to see if I can get this sanded. So across here, I think we'll just sand it with the grain. It's not taking very much, but 100 grit. So that's working good. These areas, I can sand that under power. And over here, and I'll have to get in here and do these and maybe. I started with 100 grit and worked all the way through 400. A little bit of that. I'm going to put some sanding sealer on it now, and then I'm planning on sanding it again and putting another 1 or 2 coats on. This is Zinsser seal coat, shellac based. I'm going to just clean this up to the point where I can sand it. Using my bench knife to trim that last little bit. Okay, I think I can carefully sand this. I sanded this end through 400 grit as well. Okay, so I have this little contraption rigged up here. It's a block of wood. I drilled a hole in it. It's tapped onto my live center. I turned a slight taper on it. I have some of the padded material in here and rubber bands holding it. I'm now going to cut the end off of this and try to get as much shape on the end of this as I can and then sand it by hand afterwards. Oh. I see a slightly different design. Makes it even easier. Alright, Yeah, it's about ready to break. And I think it would have been fine, but I don't want to take that chance. Probably can just finish carving it with my knife. I've had this knife for many, many years. It's a pattern maker's bench knife. Not quite. There it is. So this really helped a lot because it held it in place while I was cutting that loose. Well, I took a piece of stainless steel wire that I use for making salmon and steelhead spinners. It's certainly going to be strong enough to hold that, but it's small enough diameter that I could get a hole through here, and it's hanging from it now, and I plan on spraying multiple coats of lacquer on it. I think I'll have to hold it because it's not wanting to spin on my hook. Okay, the first of multiple coats. Let that dry for a while. I'm going to turn my heater on and go back in the house and have a cup of coffee. Well, here it is, the Inside Out Christmas Ornament. It is made from 4 pieces of cherry that were 1.5 inch square and 8 inches long. It finished at almost 3 inches in diameter and 6.5 inches long. I finished it by wiping on shellac sanding sealer and then spraying it with lacquer and sanding between coats as needed. I used brown paper and glue joints on the ends, and then I added the strapping tape once I got started and remembered. Both will work by themselves, but I would recommend using both. Safety is a factor here, so only do what you feel works best for you. The more you cut away on the first setup, the trickier the turning is after flipping the pieces around. I left 1.5 inch diameter, so a 2 inch diameter will be easier to finish after flipped, but it will leave a smaller window. I wanted to make sure it did not end up like the first one I made, and it looks a lot different. I'm really happy with it. Be sure to check the first one out in my description. I'll leave the link. They are really fun to make, and if you have never made one, practice is always good. Thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed, please consider doing so. And for those of you who are, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. Leave a comment. I read them all. And if you can share this video, it really helps the channel grow and inspires me to make even more videos. I do natural turnings from logs and segmented turnings. I enjoy doing both. Thanks again, and until the next time, see you later.